Hello, dear hearts. You're at the Indigos Lounge. This is your host, Alyce Dylan. Today is an attempt to answer the impossible question. Someone used to ask me this once, and it always fascinated me, and it's fascinated me as a concept, but it also taught me a lot of lessons. The first thing was, I wonder what it is to be you. I wonder what it's like to be you. And those sound like nice words, but really, when we look at that question in the fifth and sixth sense context, it becomes a really difficult one to answer. I know sometimes I get thrown back into the world of the five sense, and when they look at me like I am an alien, like I'm actually an alien, I'm reminded how different their reality is to ours. Even if we just work on the intuitive guidance, even if we just get hints, presentience, so we just get ideas of go here now, go that way, go here, that's still foreign to the five senses, who are only working on the literal five senses. So here we are, the sixth sense, receiving this extra stream of information. And to some people, that might sound weird or look weird. To us, it's normal. So the friend who actually used to ask me what it was to be me was himself an indigo, but he had worked so hard and made such a diligent effort to fit into the normal box that my perspective, the way I saw the world, was truly foreign to the perspective he had trained himself into. What was interesting about him was being an indigo. He was very good in the corporate world and still is to this day. He's very, very highly sought after, high level corporate type tier. But he hated the corporate politics and still does. And so he would go into a new organization and use his intuitive and sixth sense capabilities to completely revamp their entire marketing department and get all their salespeople up to speed. And then he would leave before he got dragged into the politics of wherever he was. Because once, when he didn't do that, when he stayed, he had to go on holiday for 6 months in between tasks, in between jobs. So he's made a success for himself in the corporate world, but at such an expense. And he used to say to me, wow, what is it like to be you? And I think in his case, he was really asking, how do you give yourself the freedom to be so abnormal? So let's look at some of that. I was reminded of this the other day when I caught a clip online somewhere of someone explaining or trying to explain empathy, but from a very five sense perspective. And this person was talking about how you can train you can learn empathy. You can train to be empathetic. Sounds pathetic, right? And that really snapped my head around, because you can what? You can, hello? What do you mean you can train to have empathy? So I really paid attention. And to this chap, empathy was a series of actions, a series of behaviors that made people think that you had looked at XYZ situation from their perspective. So it's a creation of a visage. It's a creation like setting up a stage. It's a creation of an appearance more than it's anything real. How can I stand in their shoes long enough to say some words that make me sound like I've really thought about their perspective? As empaths, if you have that particular ability, as empaths, that's not what we experience as empathy at all. Empathy is not a pair of shoes that you can get in and out of. It's not somebody else's perspective. Empathy is a visceral experience. So if there are any five sense people out there listening, well, I don't know that there would be, but any five sensed human being, I now understand, understands empathy completely different to how we as the sixth sense experience empathy. So to the five sensed, it's an intellectual exercise. You put yourself in the shoes of the other person and imagine how you would possibly feel were you in this situation. To the empath, that's not what happens. To the empath, we experience their emotions and possibly more than they do. Because remember, we're not only experiencers, we're amplifiers. So I used to walk around thinking how people could survive all this level of emotion that they seem to be going through until I realized that to them the emotion wasn't as amplified as my experience of it was. So to me, I was experiencing their emotion amplified 10 times. So we experience not only what they are feeling, but we amplify it too. So that's my understanding and always has been of empathy, but it's certainly not what the five sense understanding of empathy is. The same thing can be said really for compassion. So we as the sixth sense, when we say we have compassion for someone, we're saying that we want to break down and cry our eyes out for this person who's going through this thing. We literally well up, we get teary eyed about what we see being experienced. And that's different from empathy because we're not picking up their emotions at that point. We are focusing our compassion in their experience, and that's creating an emotional response. So our compassion is even different. So when I speak about language and saying we should call ourselves size or spiritually connected individuals, or we should use new words for ourselves, we also need to think about what we understand are the meanings of certain words. So one thing I've said often, if you followed me for any time, is that the sixth sense generally, don't think I've met any that don't fall into this category, but I mean, I haven't met everybody, right? But in general, the sixth sense, the size, spiritually connected, our driving purpose, the thing that really fills us up and makes us excited, is when we get to love. We are here to love. And we know that. At some deep level, when we peel away all the layers of damage in the onion, the baseline, we are here to love. And we do it so well. We love the world. We love everything we love. We do it effusively and with great passion. But when we're in our 20s, and if we've lived in a society that glorifies the Cinderella story, and 14th of September, what that's at Valentine's Day and cards and stuff, then our initial understanding of that word might be of the romantic kind. There we're a little challenged. I mean, we've got the narcissists on the one hand, we've got the overmuchness of ourselves. You know, we're a lot, we're intense. So interpersonal love or romantic things can be challenging for the sixth sense. Also, if our partner or proposed partner is, say, five sense, we're also experiencing everything they experience, so we can tell when they're not being honest. Oh, it gets messy, hey? And we get locked into, but initially there's a possibility of getting locked into this. We know we're here to love, and the cycle of that can be fairly disruptive because I'm here to love, but I'm believing the Cinderella story and believing that love means finding a partner to love and then loving the family that results, etc., etc. So my desire to love feels like everything, and therefore finding a partner is everything. And I keep making that choice based on programming and damage, perhaps Jungian style. You know, we're attracted to the partners that manifest the challenges between or with our parents in order to resolve them. So if our parents were particularly rocky in their relationship, then, you know, we'll go through fairly shallow depths of hell before we figure out the partnership issue. But when we eventually figure out, and I hope we all have by now, that love is not solely about partnership. Sure, that's the biological imperative and it's wonderful. You can find a good partnership that is wonderful, awesome. But it's really not the only capacity to love. We can love nature, we can love animals, we can love our friends, we can love our community, we can love the world. And if we direct our love that way, then we usually don't end up in such a dead end with romantic love. Romantic love will then possibly blossom, but from a place of love. So, just the word love, for example, in a very five sensed understanding, love in one expression through romantic love can mean Valentine's Day hearts and teddy bears and chocolates and flowers, and it means attachment a lot of the time, and it means commitment with a piece of paper, and it means a lot of very five sensed material physical things. Of course, the five sensed also experience love as an emotion, but not the way we do. When we experience love, it's like emanating, radiating frequency that we just want to wrap around the earth. It's this amplified expression and experience that we just beam out. So a sixth sense person in love and with love is really quite impactful. We're very intense when we're there. We're very experientially loud. Energetically, we're loud, we're effusive. We share the love out to everybody. We bounce around. And so if we can find a way to sit in that love and be there no matter what the romantic thing is, we can truly affect the world. But the point here is that our experience of love and the five sense experience of love are truly entirely different things. And so it is with really all of the emotions that the five sense experience them in a certain way. It's not to say they don't experience, of course they experience them, but they experience them differently. And then there are behaviors or states of being that the five sense describe, like honesty. Honesty, they say, is telling the literal truth. So if I'm being factual, I'm being honest. We understand that word differently. Honesty is a resonance, it's a frequency, it's a state of being. Authenticity as well. That's why you'll find a lot of sixth sense people have quite unusual friends. We have friends that other friends tell us, why do you hang out with this person? They're so crazy, or they're so off the wall, or they're so whatever. But we experience our friends as authentic. Yeah, they might be off the wall and they might not be emotionally grounded and all of those things. That might be true, but we'll take authenticity over any of that anytime. So sometimes we're drawn to people who are just really quite odd, but they're authentic, and we love that. We just adore sitting in authenticity. It's like most of us love small dinner parties with long conversations, honest, truthful, authentic conversations. And we'll take that any day over large crowds or concerts or anything like that. And that's because the experiences of authenticity, the experiences of honesty, brutal, truthful, honest. Honesty is an amazing one because I know my experience of dishonesty. Look, I still have some triggers there, but my experience of dishonesty is like sandpaper. I know when people are being dishonest, and it grates me. It really does. It completely rubs me up the wrong way. And so I always have a visceral response to dishonesty. Even if I can't tell you what the truth is of the situation, I can just tell you that person is being dishonest. That one is being deceptive. That annoys me to this day. It's a childhood trauma thing, but it really does annoy me. So authenticity to us is a feeling. To a five sense person, it's a set of appearances. Something must look authentic. Something must come across as real. It's a subtle difference, but it's a real difference. I know people who are completely together and completely authentic, but they're all sixth sense. The five sensed have a difficult time with authenticity because they are trying on different, wearing different hats or trying on different things. And also to them, authenticity is not a feeling, it's an appearance, it's another mask. We will sit in authenticity and just be who we are. A lot of the time, we spend a lot of our lives worried about being authentic because we're worried that people are going to lock us up in a padded room and throw away the key. And so we try to wear a normal hat, put on normal masks for a long time until we give up and then we become our authentic selves. And there is no better way to be than to be our authentic selves. And to be honest is more than just to deliver fact. To us, the experience of honesty and authenticity are very closely linked. It's an experience of telling our absolute understanding of the truth, sharing that from a heart center. So honesty even is an experience. It's not just a series of words that accurately reflect the truth. It's got more depth and intensity to it than that. So it's an interesting thing to consider that if you've always looked at a word and perhaps in partnership you've said, I'm being honest, I'm being truthful, you say, you're being too much, you're too intense, you're too. Look, here's the thing. If anybody ever tells you you're too much, you're too intense, they're either five sensed or they're sixth sensed in complete denial of their sixth sense nature. I don't think there's a way for us to be too intense. We're here on the leading edge of the evolution of humanity. We are the first wave, planetary wave, that we know of human beings to experience life with six senses rather than just the standard five, or with spiritual perception, since the white coats have tried to reframe sixth sense as some kind of bizarre thing to do with the immune system and whatnot. So, on the other hand, they're doing gene studies about where these abilities come from. And on the other hand, they're trying to reassign the sixth sense to something else. So, if we're confused, if the five senses are confused, you've got to understand why. But they also experience what we need to understand is they experience life differently, truly differently. So I hope this gives some comfort to whoever of you are out there and feeling like when you say the word honesty, you have an expectation of something more holistic, something visceral. Whereas when another person says the word honesty, that's five senses, they mean factually correct. So our experience of any one term, honesty is a good example. While we want it to be factually correct, we are also looking for a feeling from that. We experience honesty not just as an intellectual concept, but as an energetic reality. All right, lovely. So there we go. Just one of the things on what it's like to be us and how being us is so very different from being them. And remember, there is always the possibility that the five sensed could, I don't know how this would genetically work now that they've discovered they've mutated an inron that prevents them from spiritually connecting. But I'm still going to go with the concept that any of them could at any stage become sixth sensed. Maybe it takes some spiritual awakening or maybe something like that happens and they do open to the sixth sense. Or they could take one of those, blue gunk things from a plant or a nasal spray. Isn't it interesting, though, that when they give that nasal spray that deactivates the inron, which prevents the sixth sense, when they give that nasal spray, it improves the lives of Alzheimer's and anyone who's having brain injury or brain difficulty, Alzheimer's, and there's something else, which really gives us a good indication that our memories, while we think they're stored in our brains, I believe they're actually stored in our spirit selves. And so we hold our memories in our spirit self and interpret them through sections of the brain. I don't know that we actually store memory in our physical brain self, because that would mean that when we move on to the next world, we don't remember, and that's certainly not true. So it makes sense, therefore, that if they give this spray, which negates that blocking mechanism, that blocking mutation, to somebody with Alzheimer's, they would suddenly have access to memory, that, and perhaps they're just using different pathways to bring that memory down. And now I've gone on a tangent. But yeah, so many things to think about, so much news, so many things coming out in the world. There we go, lovelies. Just more information on to help you on your road to love always.